You're obviously coming to the Hill at a very serious and challenging time in the history of our country. We are seeing the severe impacts of foreign interference in real time, the impacts of a failure to stop foreign interference. And this problem of foreign interference, along with a generalized failure, I think, to deal with extortion and other violent crime, has led to the situation we see today of Sikhs being targeted and of communities being aggressively pitted against each other. Now, as Conservatives, our commitment to the Sikh community and to all communities is to work to restore the promise made by John Diefenbaker. Not just to say it, but to give it life and meaning in our time. Prime Minister John Diefenbaker said, "I am Canadian, a free Canadian, free to speak without fear, free to worship God in my own way, free to stand for what I think right, free to oppose what I believe wrong, free to choose those who govern my country. This heritage of freedom I pledge to uphold for myself and all mankind." And it's interesting just thinking about that quote. I recall a time recently when I spoke at Malton Gurdwara, and I shared those words at that time as well, saying that we must be a country where people feel that they are free to speak without fear of threats, without fear of what's going to happen to family members, and so on. Now, I have to say, I did anticipate that there might be some barbs tonight for our Conservative leader. So I do want to respond to a couple of those things, but also to talk in a deeper way about the problem of foreign interference that we face. We do not have a system of consensus government in this country. We have a system in which the Prime Minister and the executive branch of government exercise virtually all of the power. They control the parliamentary agenda, they exercise vast discretionary powers under statute, and also critically, they control the flow of intelligence information. That means that a person who is outside of the government, whether or not they have security clearance, has no power to demand information, and more importantly, has absolutely no power to use that information. Our primary power as the official opposition, this is the tool we have, is our voice. Unless and until we're in government, that's all we have, is our voice to speak out on behalf of people like you who want us to raise our voice in Parliament and elsewhere. A voice that we must be able to fully use in order to hold the government accountable without being constrained. But regardless of that, it is the government that has the core power and the responsibility. It is the responsibility of the government of this country to protect our country from foreign interference. So then, the question is, what has been the record over the last 9 years? How are we doing? How is the government performing when it comes to protecting our country from the great scourge of foreign interference? Now, first, I think it's clear that there has been a generalized failure to deal with foreign interference, which is why we have pushed for a long time in the Conservative Party. We've been championing for a very long time the implementation of a foreign influence registry and tougher measures to respond to transnational repression since well before the last election. In fact, Kenny Chiu, the courageous former Conservative member of Parliament who put forward the foreign influence registration bill in the last Parliament, was targeted because of this measure and was defeated in the last election, most likely himself being targeted by foreign interference. But that's foreign interference generally. What about specifically foreign interference from India? So here's what Sam Cooper, formerly of Global News, reported regarding Indian foreign interference. He recorded this on his website, the Bureau. He said, CSIS planned a major intervention in 2017 to shut down rapidly growing Indian intelligence networks in Vancouver that were monitoring and targeting the Sikh community, according to a confidential Canadian foreign interference review. But Ottawa blocked CSIS's operation due to political sensitivity and feared it would impact Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's upcoming trip to India, the top secret June 2019 report says. And so the Indian diplomat in Vancouver, targeted by CSIS, continued to run his networks unabated, end of quote. That's from Sam Cooper's reporting. Now, on the same trip to India, with the access to this information about foreign interference already, Prime Minister Trudeau signed an intelligence sharing agreement, the framework for cooperation on counterterrorism and violent extremism between Canada and India, signed by Prime Minister Trudeau. Now, notably, after the Prime Minister spoke in the House of Commons about the assassination of Mr. Hardeep Singh Nijjar, I submitted a written question to the government about this agreement, asking in light of that agreement announcement, if the framework was still in place, if any information had been shared with India since the Najjar assassination, and if any information had been shared with India about Mr. Najjar specifically. The government confirmed that the agreement was still in effect in their response, and further wrote that, quote, given the ongoing investigation with respect to the murder of Mr. Najjar, details related to cooperation between law enforcement and security agencies of Canada and India since June 18, 2023 cannot be disclosed, end of quote. So I think this is gravely serious. Many Canadians may only have found out about Indian foreign interference recently, but both Sikh community members and, according to Mr. Cooper's reporting, the government itself have been aware of this problem for a very long time. Now, we don't know if information was shared with Indian intelligence about Mr. Najjar. We don't know because the government refuses to answer my question. So we have a problem with foreign interference, a grave problem that requires strong action by those who hold the reins of power and have the ability to change policy to do so. And if that doesn't happen, we need a new government that's prepared to take that action to defend our country. It's time, I believe, that we restore the promise of Canada, of the true North, strong and free. A Canada where no laws at any level impede the free practice of your faith, where foreign states do not interfere with the freedom to peacefully express a political opinion, and where Canada is strong enough to deter and shut down foreign interference instead of just talking about it. The true North, strong and free, where every person's pursuit of purpose, community, and security is enabled by a government that celebrates faith, family, and freedom. And I know that the Sikh community is heroic and is resilient. We'll stand for justice, for the Sikh community, and for all communities. And this is why it is always such a pleasure to be with you, to work with you.